Welcome to the second session of #FE Voices. We've got a brilliant session for you today where we're really sort of like reaching out into the communities that we serve. And today's is called Looking In. Today we have Sufian Sadiq, who is going to be chairing the discussion today. And Sufian Sadiq is the director of the Chiltern Teaching School Hub, based in the Luton area, but it covers a vast area now. And he can perhaps tell you a little bit more, but a vast array of schools and providers across many of our counties. And he'll be chairing the discussion today. So welcome, Sufian, if you want to take your mic off.
Got it, I've got it, finally got it. Welcome, everyone. I'm so pleased that so many of you could join us today for this session. As I've just seen from our lovely friend Julia Skinner, who's just said that she had to join because the first session was brilliant. And I'm so pleased that we have such an amazing panel that we've been able to put together for this event. My name is Sufian Sadiq and I'm Director of Chiltern Teaching School. I'm here really because I genuinely have a massive interest in the FE sector, having worked there for 13 years myself within the sector, and now looking at teacher development and being a community activist. I'd like to think that I work a lot in our communities, and I feel that organizations like the FE provisions that we have around the country play such a crucial role. So I'm so pleased that I can talk to you today about the two themes, and we've got two very interesting themes. The first one will be about what role should FE colleges play within the communities they serve. So what roles do they have? And I think, again, lots of interesting discussion and debate around what role we feel they should play. And then later on in the session, we'll be looking at, is there a value vision when considering vocational qualifications? Again, such a hot topic, so much around, do we do justice to vocational qualifications? Or actually, should we be pushing people on vocational qualifications? That's really entirely up to the panel. So I'm really excited. I'm going to start with what I have and who I have. So firstly, just a quick introduction from Shahida. Aslam, Shahida, would you be able to just say hello in a few words, please?
Hello, good evening, everyone. So yeah, my name is Shahida Aslam. I'm from the Helena Kennedy Foundation. I'm the Director of Operations over there. And the Helena Kennedy Foundation is a national charity, a social mobility charity, which has been going for 20 years now. And we provide bursaries to further education students who would like to progress to higher education. And we also provide pastoral support along with that as well.
Thank you very much. Okay, now over to Shalom, Lloyd.
Hello, everyone. It's great to be here. Thank you for having me. My name is Shalom Lloyd. I am the founder of a company called Naturally Tribal Skincare, proudly Milton Keynes-based diverse brand, and also co-founder of an amazing company called Emerging Market Quality Trials that focuses on diversity and inclusion in the drug development arena. So I'm here, I'm excited about this session. I'm here as a parent, as part of the community, as an employer as well.
Brilliant. Thank you, Shalom. Oba, he's slightly more animated than I am. Oba, go for it.
Brilliant. I'll try and be as animated as possible. I just noticed Shahida is also a Director of Operations. That is my job title at Loudspeaker. Shahida probably deserves to be a Director of Operations more than me. I invented the job title for myself because I was one of the pre-founders of Loudspeaker. What we do is public speaking and confidence building workshops for young people across the country. We help them gain the confidence to chase their dream job, but also gain the confidence to speak their mind on issues that mean the world to them. So hopefully bringing that perspective to this. Arv seems to think I'm the resident young person of the panel. I'm basically 30 years old. So he's like, you went through the college system much more recently than the rest of us. So hopefully I can bring that college student perspective, even though I'm almost well into my 30s.
Okay, Dr. Majid.
Sorry, hi there. Hi, good evening, everybody. My name is Majid Al-Kader. I'm CEO of MX Reality, Milton Keynes-based company, developing virtual reality solution. I'm the co-founder of Gather, which is event company in virtual reality, and the one is more relevant for the FE sector, co-founder of Metaverse Learning. We develop virtual reality program to help students and learners to understand more about the practical element of learning using immersive solution. Very happy to be here with you.
Thank you, Majid. Paul Oxley.
Thank you. Nice to be with you, everybody. My name is Paul. My day job now is the vicar of St Mark's Church of Milton Keynes, which for 2 years of its life met in Milton Keynes College in the cafe there. Previously, I taught PE in a secondary school and was a tutor in a further education college in Gloucester for a few years as well. I also lead St Mark's Meals, which works with children stuck in poverty and hunger for across Milton Keynes, and head up the Milton Keynes Child Poverty Partnership.
Paul, I have to ask you, are you on one of those really cool standing desks?
Yes, although it's broken, so I can't put it down. So I have to stand up the whole time.
Brilliant. Over to you, Jason Holt, please.
Thank you, Sufian. Great to be here, and thanks for the invitation. So I'm the other half of Metaverse Learning, the co-founder with Majid, based in Milton Keynes, which, as Majid says, is all about bringing real practical skills in a virtual scenario to learners around the world. I'm really excited about it, but I also chair the Apprenticeship Ambassador Network, which is a network of employers and apprentices all around the country who champion apprenticeships to their communities. And I also have co-founded the Association of Apprentices, which is a membership organization for apprentices to feel part of a community. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you, Jason. Dawn Fitt.
Hi, good evening, everybody. I'm the Deputy Head of School at Milton Keynes College for Engineering Apprenticeships. And I'm here because I'm really, really passionate about engaging with young people and encouraging them into the world of engineering and apprenticeships in particular, and especially with the underrepresented groups, because we have quite a significant number of minority groups in engineering, and especially engineering apprenticeships. And I just want to grow that as much as we can and enthuse and impart that enthusiasm to young people across Milton Keynes and the wider network, actually.
Thank you, Dawn. We're going to go to Rehana Faisal.
I think Sufian brought me on last on purpose, but I'm not going to comment on that further until perhaps later on. So it's great to be here with clearly an amazing panel. I'm Rehana Faisal. I am chair of governors at a large secondary school in Luton. I also chair a young people safeguarding charity, but most importantly, and I don't know why Arv didn't think of this, but I can also bring the young person's perspective around further education, because I have got adult children, and they were in the system not so long ago. So, you know, here as a parent and somebody who is really passionate about how we create community, and colleges being one part of that element of community.
Excellent. And we've got Rebecca supporting us today, so I'm going to say make Rebecca say hello, because we wouldn't be here without your support.
Hello. Sorry, I couldn't turn my video on for a minute there. Hello. Really lovely to meet everybody. I'm Community Engagement Manager for Milton Keynes College. So I'm very pleased that Sufian has said that it was me that helped bring this together, but actually it was Arv, so I'm not going to be able to take any of the credit because Arv is on the call. Otherwise, I would be taking 100% of the credit, but thank you,
Rebecca.
Cheers.
Okay, so really getting into the nuts and bolts of it, and I am going to be, for the panel, the best thing about this thing is I almost think, because I'm a really good friend of ours, he's given me the dream team panel. And we've got a fantastic panel, and I don't want to be rude, and I could listen to you guys for hours, but I want to make sure we get across to everyone and hear something for everyone. So I will ask our panel to keep some of their thoughts slightly short so we can give enough time for everyone. So the first question, really, what roles should FE colleges have within communities they serve? I'll probably start with Rehana, and I'll probably start with a bit of a provocation and really ask the question, shouldn't colleges just stick with core business and do what they should be doing, which is just educating kids? Is it really a college's purpose to be going outside of its walls? Over to you, Rehana.
I don't think that's a particularly provocative question, but I think it's a question that, had it not come from you, I would say probably really needs to examine what the role of FE colleges are, what's the purpose. But perhaps the question that I'd put back, or the problem that I'd put back, is how do FE colleges ensure that they are serving their communities well, that they serve their young people well, if they are not in dialogue with us, if they don't understand our aspirations, and if they don't understand our barriers, the barriers that we face, both in education, but also, we're talking about FE colleges in particular, but in terms of then accessing work once once our young people have left education. It was lovely to see that little video at the beginning. It's a poem by Rehana Mahmood, who's also from Luton. And she talks about some of the challenges, particularly from a female sort of Muslim women's perspective. And I'll just bring that in here actually as an example. So we know that as Muslim women, a government, an all-party parliamentary group described the barriers to employment as a triple penalty. So there are kind of 3 layers that the Muslim women in particular, because of their religious identity, because of their gender identity, because so many of us are visible and from racialized communities, that we're women of color, that we have these multiple barriers when we access employment. So how do FE colleges fulfill their functions if they are not intimately connected with their communities and intimately understands, all of those dreams, all of those aspirations, but also all of those barriers?
Thank you. Rehana, I'll go to you, Paul, in terms of, I'm thinking of your context, what you do. Is the onus back on organizations outside to work with the colleges, or is the onus on the college to work outside of its doors? Whose responsibility is it really?
That's a great question. I wonder if anybody that assumes it's somebody else's responsibility to do it is going to lead to a problem. And actually, if we've learned anything over the past few months, we know it's all of our responsibility. And I, as an organisation from outside the college, I want to be involved, and I would hope that any college would be reciprocated in the opposite direction, because where does any community begin and any community end? Any particular college is made up of individuals who are part of that community, and it's not like they shed off their community as they walk through the door of the college and pick it up on the way out. All of the issues that I have, all of my family background, all of my ethnicity, all of my financial stuff, all of my education, I bring those into the college, whether I'm a staff or a student member. And so if I assume that somebody else is going to do all the hard work for me, then there's probably going to be a bit of a chasm into which there's just a void of nothing happening. So I think it's probably incumbent, to answer your question, both of us.
Thank you, Paul. Oba, just thinking about what Rehana said about Muslim women and thinking about actually perhaps ethnic minorities more broadly and in a more general perspective, is that the college's perspective? Is that a responsibility the college has necessarily outside of its walls? Again, thinking about some of the work that happens around equality and diversity. Is it a college's responsibility to get involved with it? If they're doing its stuff inside for their own pupils, do they need to go outside to do more?
Yeah, and the thing I absolutely believed in what Rehana was talking about, you can't prepare students for the world of work if you don't prepare them to engage in their own communities. If students don't understand their sense of belonging, what they bring in terms of their own story, what they can do internally to help other people and take that community forward, they're not going to be ready to walk into the scary place of your first day at work and be able to make an impact and take something forward. Those things are like intrinsically linked. If we can build their confidence from a human level, that's also the same confidence that's going to make them be able to walk into an office, if it's a sales job, selling packaging, buy into a culture and bring that culture forwards as well. So even if you're sitting there from a point of view saying colleges should just prepare people for the world of work, yeah, you're going to have better students at engaging in that world of work if they understand their communities and if they have experience making an impact within it. So whichever way, whether your answer to the question is yes or no, I think it's absolutely part of that college's gift to be able to find opportunities for students, to be able to link up with other organizations within the community, find opportunities, embed social action within courses, because we're talking about the same thing. We're talking about students being as prepared for their next steps as possible, whether that's from a general life sense or engaging in a world of work and progressing in a career as quickly as possible.
Thank you, Oba. Shalom, I'm going to come to you on this one in terms of what would perfect engagement look like? If a college is sitting here and they've tuned in, what should they do? I don't know, if you could sum up, what should a really good college be doing if they want to go out and engage their communities?
I do think it's, and I love the title of this, by the way, it's looking in. So for me, I started to think about looking inwards to myself. Colleges represent our community and our community represent our colleges. I think that it's really, you know, when the phrase, it takes a village, right? The onus is on both sides, in my opinion. When I think about the current mindset, at least for me currently, it's a traditional approach of going to, primary, secondary, university, etc. That is changing now, because with additional avenues and additional options that colleges provide, further education is no longer what it used to be. It's no longer one size fits all, right? It links back to employers. As an employer, I'm a member of the community. As an employer, the onus is also on me. If we have that inclusive mindset, it facilitates a diverse way of thinking. The biggest thing we have, whether we're in college or in community, is our social capital. That contributes to our genuine growth, personally and professionally, in my opinion. So if we personally, professionally, culturally, business-wise, limit ourselves to sticking to the community we feel safe in, people who look like us, sound like us, who have similar beliefs, then ultimately our social capital is limited. How do we then have diverse thinking and innovation? So the onus is really on both sides. As a business owner, I have to look in and say, the onus is also on me to reach out and actually understand the colleges that are in my community and contribute towards the success of them.
Thank you, Shalom. Paul, an interesting thing, I'm going to come to you as probably your background. You probably understand the concept of servitude far better than I do. But the question says, communities they serve. Who do we serve? Who do colleges serve? And when we say communities, where does that stop?
That's a massive question, eh? And was a really interesting title, I thought, because even just in asking that question and having that title, there's an implicit assumption that the college should serve its community rather than be a self-serving institution that wants to better its own standings and increase its own cash in the bank and all of that. It is, if it's going to play a part for the bettering of the wider community, the town, the city where it is, for the individuals that make it up, it should be serving. In the very least, in giving a good education, and like Oba was saying, a great framework and a springboard to leap off into the world of work, but into the world of being a person and being able to interact with other people. And that's providing a service, isn't it? The tutor that sits and listens to the issues that a staff or a student member comes in with, that's an act of serving. So I think you as a college serve yourself and the individuals that make you up and the community within which you sit well, if you understand that mutual beneficial relationships are for the betterment of everybody. When I was working at a college, it was right on that precipice between transitioning from to be the best college in the area, we have to drive the hardest at getting our attainment tables up and getting the best pass marks and making the finances do the most. And it was transitioning over to understand, if I want the very, very best for that student, I want the very best for them in a holistic, well-rounded way in all of their life, not just in this class. Because when they leave, I don't want them to just be a dysfunctional person who has a good result in this class. I want them to be a well-rounded member and contributor to society. And so making that transition and saying, we serve everybody in the community, and then the community will serve us as well, I think is important.
Thank you. Rehana, in terms of Julia's asked, do communities understand the role that colleges actually want to play in society? Do we understand as communities, or are we sometimes asking for something totally different from what colleges think they should be doing?
I was looking at Julia's question and hoping that you might come back to me on it, because I picked up on something Shalom was saying there as well about this kind of being a reciprocal arrangement, that it's got to be a two-way relationship. And I agree with, But I'll also say that it's got to be a two-way relationship. Both sides have got to play, but they're not two equal sides. So we've got to kind of recognize here that, and perhaps slightly provocatively, and I'm nothing if I'm not provocative, but colleges, educational institutions, whether they're schools, whether they're universities, sixth forms, are places of power. They're institutions of power. And that power is reflected in lots of ways, and you can frame that in lots of different ways. So in terms of Julia's question there, I think the answer is probably no. And now we could argue that, the communities should be getting involved more. We should be asking the question, but that wouldn't take into account the differential in power here. And this really needs to be a job of colleges, schools, and wherever I go, I would advocate for this, of reaching outwards and thinking about our role and how much that can be augmented, how value can be built by drawing the community in and by understanding our communities. And if we really want to do well by our young people, if we really want to do justice by our young people, we really have to do that legwork in bringing the community in, but also recognizing how valuable the community is. Now, and I say that because recognizing the value of the community isn't just about, we want to do these sort of, these exercises where communities know what they're doing and we might get more young people in, but actually they're a resource in themselves. Communities are a resource in themselves, and we really need to recognize the value that mums and dads, not just our kind of businesses and those, but just ordinary mums and dads can bring when they are engaged with the institutions that their young people are in. I hope, Julia, that in part answers your question at least.
A question I'll put to Shalom. In terms of if you're thinking of the way colleges kind of run and function, would you rather a very community-centric college, or would you rather a very high-performing college that's focused on results and performance? And I ask that because what if a college isn't performing well academically in the results and outcomes for young people, but is doing a good job on community? Would that raise questions about perhaps they should focus on that core business element? What do you think?
I think personally, rightly or wrong, I think one feeds into the other. I think that community side actually will filter through and pull through to the results aspect. I think that if you have a community-focused college, within that community, the ability to tap into the resources, to the skills, to absolutely everything the community has to offer, including from employees, from parents, it's a holistic engagement of the makeup of the community. I think that will ultimately lead to the results that we're looking for, academically even, in my opinion.
Okay, thank you. Oba, can we really serve a community if we don't look like a community? Can we say that actually, let's kind of break it down. Some of our FE colleges in this country serve a very diverse community. In some cases, 80% plus of student population might be from BAME background. The question I ask is, can we be 100% white in our leadership, in our management, predominantly white in our, perhaps our kind of teaching workforce, and even in the other case, which is where staff don't live in those communities, which is predominantly the case? Can you really serve a community? Going back to what Paul was saying, if you're not from the community and you don't reflect the community.
To be completely effective, my belief is that you have to provide role models that the students can buy into and relate to. And I see a lot of the time, especially over the last year, there's been a tidal wave. There has been a tidal wave from colleges where leadership have gone, we can do better and we can make change. But they can't change the leadership that day. That's one of the problems. But they want to do better. So they want to get those lived experiences. And okay, you can make positive change. Absolutely. You can break some of the structural barriers, but some of the subconscious stuff. Look, I was dropped into this country at 12 years old as the only black boy in my year, and there were no black teachers in my school. And it was, I went to an old school boys grammar school, which is all careers heavy. there's something subconscious that cannot be fixed where I do not see any leaders, except my amazing parents who have done incredibly. So I had role models in that sense from them, but I didn't have leaders in terms of teachers, in terms of leaders within my own school in sixth form that I could look at and go, wow, that person's like me and I can achieve that. And then on a wider scale in a college where you have, it's not a sixth form, it's not 100 people, it's thousands and thousands of people. That is just exploded, and the subconscious impact that can have on a student, especially if you're at a college where 80% are ethnic minority background and they see all of leadership essentially, or 90% of leadership, or that just reversed, 80% of leadership being not looking like them and not having the same characteristics as them. In terms of the doors that they'll see as being open to them in their mind, it's going to have an effect. It absolutely will. So if it's in the short term, if you're a college and you have a predominantly white leadership or a leadership that doesn't look like the students you serve, you can still make positive change. But it's imperative to bring in role models to those students to make them see, yeah, I can do incredible things. People break glass ceilings all the time. We just need to put them in front of them, because students a lot of the time aren't sitting on Google looking for people who look like me that have done amazing things. We have a duty to put those people in front of them, to give them that inspiration so they can put two and two together, so they feel that they can use those structures to do amazing things.
Thank you, Oba. I feel on that topic, we can talk about that all day. I'm conscious of the time and we need to move on. So I'll kind of come to our really natural fit into our next topic. Is there a value issue when considering a vocational qualification? And perhaps I'll start with you, Shahida, in terms of connecting that theme with, is there a perception issue with vocational education and certain people from certain communities that no longer valuing certain qualifications because of the perceptions that surround certain vocational qualifications?
I mean, I've through the work that we do at the charity, we obviously get hundreds of applications each year that students who want to go to university. But speaking as a parent as well, I think, like Shalom was saying, that it takes a village to bring up a child. When I'm thinking now forward about my child, whether I want to go vocational studies or do want to go to higher education, I think it's going to be a case of, whatever their choice is, we need to support that. So if they want to go down the vocational route, you need to give them those options, provide that financial support, provide the role models. If they want to go down different careers, become a doctor, engineer, etc., is providing that route and the role model. And Oba, when you were talking, I couldn't help thinking of Marcus Rashford, the footballer. Because of him, my nephew wants to now read. At the charity, we really fully support the role of mentors and role models. And like you say, when I was at university, I did fashion, and I think I joke about it that I was one of only 2 brown people on the course, and it was really important at that time. Had I seen another person who looked like me, I probably would have gone down a different route. Sorry, Sufian, I've just digressed slightly.
No, but I think it's important. Dawn, as someone in the education sector delivering vocational education, do you feel there is a value issue around vocational education?
Yeah, I mean, I came through the apprenticeship route myself into engineering, and for a long time, I think I suffered with imposter syndrome, because in engineering, typically through the networks that I had, you were expected to have gone to university, got a degree, and then progressed into engineering that way. And I am professionally registered, so it was through work-based learning, further education, that apprenticeship route, and that gave me the grounding to go on and do what I needed to do. So hopefully, we go back to the role model issue. I'm there as a role model to those young people, those apprentices that are coming through, which is really, really important. And I think you can't give enough credence to that whole idea, that concept of role modeling, because if you've got the people there that are, people can see that's who I can be coming through, then that gives them the impetus, hopefully, to go on and progress. So I've been through the apprenticeship route. I've done the vocational training, education. I've come out the other side with further qualifications, higher qualifications. So I'm there and I see the value of it. But in my own experience, my own lived experience within the workplace and the working environment, I've also been involved in those networks where it's sort of, you feel, oh, I don't quite fit in because I haven't gone through A levels and university and got the degree in engineering that way. So yeah, for me, there is, we've got to do more about putting emphasis back on the requirements around vocational education and how that can actually help people progress. It's not a one size fits all, and it's about giving people and our communities, the people within our communities, that informed choice. Because without that, they might come back later on and go, well, actually, you know what? I'd have been better off if I'd have done an apprenticeship, or I'd got further in my career if I'd have done an apprenticeship, or I'd have got that vocational experience earlier on in my career rather than waiting till I'd come out the other end after a 3, 4, 5-year degree.
Thank you, Dawn. Jason, I'll come to you on this, and it's more something that I hear often, and I'm someone who was head of vocational education. I'm somewhat biased in terms of a role that I had held in a FE college. But I'm also now working across high schools. The value part's really interesting because kids on a playground sometimes will say, if someone's trying a skill in football, and it's kind of, I'm just giving an example of how they use it as a term. Someone's trying something with a football and they fail, and they're like, oh, whoa, he's a BTEC Ronaldo. And it's the use of that word of a vocational qualification with poorer or lesser performance. Do we have a problem around how people view vocational qualifications generally in society?
Yeah, I've never heard of that story, but I've just...
You're not in a boys' school. I'm sorry.
I've raised my daughters,
12-year-olds.
At home, but actually, I'm just listening to Dawn's story, and it just shows the power of the fact that Dawn started as an apprentice, and her story is so powerful, and it makes me think of the numbers of stories of apprentices you hear who have done so well in life, and it's that storytelling that really brings home that first-hand account of just the impact that apprenticeships have, a vocational route have on people's lives. And it was really interesting. I was thinking about this question earlier today, and it so happens in the Times today, there was a story about UCAS, who are exploring how to make it as easy to apply for an apprenticeship as it would be to apply for university, because 50% of young people choose to do an apprenticeship or are interested in an apprenticeship, which is a huge number. 50%, that's 500,000 kids a year who are looking to do an apprenticeship. So UCAS now want to make it as easy as a parallel pathway because of that interest. And I think too, the fact that the brand promise of apprenticeships has changed enormously. Yes, it's still misunderstood, and there's still perceptions that it is the failed route, and you have to go to university to get anywhere. But I think that has moved enormously in the last 5 years, even the last 2 years. There was something around, there was some, again, something written in the papers recently about public opinion, that 42% of people think an apprenticeship is a better way to prepare for life. And that's 7 times more than the university route. So that just says so much about how things have changed, and the brand promise of vocational training is, I think is the one to watch. I think it'll be sometimes seen, or soon to be seen, as the unfair advantage. Oh, lucky you, your kid went to do an apprenticeship. Oh, mine went to university. What a shame. So I'm very positive about the future.
I love your positivity, and again, as someone who's worked around vocational qualification and actually seen the impact they've had on the lives of people, it brings a lot of pride to me. My own sister is a senior director in a firm in Qatar at the moment, and she was a GNVQ student in Luton and went on to achieve success. Dr. Majid, I'm very biased. It says Dr. Majid. You're an academic. Is vocational education the route for bright kids?
100%.
Or is it not for the brightest ones? Would you say actually the brightest ones should not be doing vocational education?
Okay, I mean, just go back to kind of the panel of what we discussed, what Shahida gave an example about being a doctor or an engineer. I came from a background where I educated in Iraq. When you live in that society, and I think a lot of people can relate to this, they would say, if you're not an engineer or a doctor, you've got no career in life, and basically your life is stopped. So you have to work hard to be in that level. And I came to this great country in 88 to continue with my qualification, to continue getting a master and PhD in engineering. But after being in this country for a while, then I realized actually that is not the case. Society forced me into this. And if you like, and then I had to kind of change. So I've decided to, although I continue with my qualification, but I decided not to study engineering because I discovered after years being an engineer, I hated engineering, but I had to be doing that. So I quitted that. And that kind of made me realize a lot of kind of kids go into a level of getting degree because of society or because their culture or their parents, if you like, force them. So I think being an apprentice, it's a great thing. I now encourage a lot of my friends' kids to be going to that route rather than getting into the university level. It's obviously by choice, but I think having the practical training, practical qualification, and then get engaged with commercial companies from very early stage, it's a great advantage, more than what the university students will have. By the time they finish, they got a degree, polished degree, but it doesn't mean they can have the experience like apprentices have. So that's a kind of a massive disadvantage. So in my opinion, the college have to play a big part in educating the society and the communities about apprenticeship is a great thing, and it should be more loud about it, should be proud of it as well.
Thank you, Dr. Majid. Oba, I'll come to you in a minute. I'm just interested in going to Shahida on this one. Shahida, again, probably as a parent, and we know Shahida's young boy, he's 9 today. He's not Zoom bombed us just yet, but he had earlier. Is vocational education for the brightest kids, or is there an issue around value, around the fact that the brightest kids to get into the Russell Group, the red brick universities, should not do vocational education, or actually is it equal value? And is that true? If we say there's equal value, it's okay us saying it here. Is there equal value is the question.
Do you know, I was just thinking about that once Majid was speaking, that the feedback that we've had from our students is that, you know, they're still at university, but what happens to the people who, to individuals who don't know what they want to do? Because for some people, going to university is that opportunity to make the mistakes, to make the contacts, to build the social networks. So, I mean, you know, if I wanted to study fashion and I went to do an apprenticeship, and then I went on to realize I didn't really want to go into the fashion industry, but had I done his apprenticeship, my time would have been wasted. So, you know, going to university for me, it was that time, okay, I could make that mistake. I mean, at that time, I was really lucky that I got a grant. But I think there's equal value in it. And I think it is about supporting the individual's choice. So when it comes down to colleges, you know, providing that guidance, and the village supporting the students making their choices, and the parents making those choices as well. And I know that we're dealing with 18 plus students, but still now I get individuals from disadvantaged communities saying that my parents are saying this and my parents are saying that. And it's interesting to what, Majid, that, you know, at the time, I'm Pakistani, and my mum and dad said to me at the time that you don't have to be a doctor or whatever, as long as you get a degree, you're okay. Just get a degree and that's it. But then, you know, those choices weren't, we didn't have those much choices at the time. But, you know, you end up where you're meant to be, I suppose.
Shahida, that's great to hear about your parents. My parents are still waiting for me to be a doctor. And I'll assure them one day I will. Okay, Oba, over to you. You want to make a contribution?
Yes, just quickly. And Sufian, my parents just stopped waiting for me to become a doctor because my sister just passed medicine. They got it right, 3rd time lucky. All the pressure is off. But I just really wanted to second what you were saying, Dr. Majid and Shahida. Like, my experience is genuinely my life experience in education is the opposite of what we're trying to promote here. As I said, dropped into this country at 12, 13 years old. My parents are like my best friends now, but when I was a kid, they were strict Nigerian parents. I wanted me to be a doctor, an engineer, or whatever. And my school, being an old school boys grammar school, I never made a choice to go to university in my life. I ended up there. But there's two sides to a coin, where some of my biggest privilege, where my mum's a doctor and had incredible access and got me loads of opportunities. And my school basically, without just put me into a Russell Group university. I had no idea what I wanted to do as a human being until my mid-20s. No idea. because there was never really any opportunity for me to figure it out and make mistakes and really have that internal conversation or external conversation. It was going in a direction. My first day at university, I was studying economics. Somebody asked me where I wanted to work. I said KPMG. I have to this day no idea what KPMG do. And that was the path that was in my head that I wanted to do. There's people I know now who I work with who have figured that out at like 16, 17 years old, because it was their career choices were based on wider things. You want to help people. You want to make a difference in your society, even if it's money related, and they can find a route that's down there for them. There was so much negative narrative around certain subjects and BTECs, as you can imagine, in the school I went to and in Russell Group universities. And nobody really talks about that other side and what people gain in that social element, that internal confidence when you know what you want to do and you can chase a direct route to go and take it.
No, thank you, Oba. Interesting. As a young person, I always said I'm not going to be like my parents. I never forced my kids. But every time my son says he wants to have an ice cream van and he wants to be an ice cream van man, I kind of want to drop in and say, oh, yes, you can run a chain of them. That would be great. But can you not do that? Can you not think about running loads of ice cream vans? So it's interesting. Rehana, I know before we close, Rehana, I'm interested because, Rehana, me and you have argued over this topic, and I do want to bring you in. I am an advocate for vocational qualifications, and it's unfair to say you're not, but you raised some issues about vocational qualifications, and I'd be interested to hear that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, look, I think, we talked about diversity a lot. Young people come in all shapes, sizes, and lots of different aspirations. And as a teacher, you know that, different young people learn better in different ways. And there are several routes to the same destination, but you've got to work out what's best for that young person. However, I think we need some real honesty about vocational qualifications. And I really think we need to have, the truth is that they are not valued in the same way. And I think we all know that. We can lament it, but we all know that they're not valued in the same way. And what we really need is a top-down change in narrative about vocational qualifications, because to be honest, at the moment, it's painfully classist. When young people in this lovely town that you and I are sat in, Luton, we're not in the same place together, but we're both, Sufian and I both in Luton. We know that there are these sort of parallel dialogues that go along. That if you haven't done well, you'll go on and do a BTEC, and if you do well, you go on to do an A level. Up the road from us in Bedford, there are a whole load of private schools, and nobody is having those conversations there. They are happening. And by and large, it's working class young people who are taking vocational qualifications. I don't devalue personally. I know that they bring a lot of value to young people. I know that they teach skills that perhaps A levels don't. But I think if we really want to bring parity, we need to change the way that the top-down narrative around them. And actually, we know that the government don't really feel the same way about them because the funding isn't there in the same way. We know that certain universities don't value them in the same way. So if we really want to talk about parity, we've got to bring all of those things in. And I was really interested in the perspective there from Dr. Majid and Shahida about, growing up and, and again, I'm also from Pakistani heritage and thinking about my parents' aspirations, and essentially my parents wanted their children to do well. They didn't want to experience the same poverty that they did. And so I really want everybody to reflect for a moment what it means to be somebody, a parent who has grown up and lived through poverty, and the aspirations, therefore, that you want for your children and the success that you want. And you are going to, whether you like it or not, want them to go in a particular direction and in the way that you conceive success. And I'm going to pick up a little bit also on what Dawn said about fitting in, because the challenge of fitting in is also greater for people who are racialized. I'm chair of governors at a school, at an all-girls school, and the vast majority of our girls are from racialized backgrounds, they're Muslim. And know so many of them think that they must dress in a particular way, they must speak in a particular way in order to be seen as professional, in order to achieve success. And when you're sitting there as a young person, as a family, trying to balance all of these ideas, saying, what's that best way of getting there? Because I recognize that there are things about me that are going to be a barrier to fitting in. There's already a barrier there. If I go down the BTEC route and I'm hearing all of these things about BTEC, is that going to add another barrier? So the discourse is classist and it has particular impact for racialized people. Advocate for them, but I think we've got to get real on what they mean, what we really need to do in order to change perceptions around them. Value doesn't come from us just saying that they're valuable.
Okay, thank you. I am possibly, the one thing is, I'm probably the worst person to ever host a panel, and this is the best behaved I've ever been, where I've not interjected with my own opinion. But there's no way I'm going to let it finish without having the last piece. So one is, in summary, I know genuinely, having worked in a college that's been at the heart of a community, the role is powerful. The role is powerful in towns like Luton, where food banks and their visitors are on the rise. Where you've got social breakdown in society with these low aspirations of young people. The role is really high, and the role sits there for colleges, for organizations like FE colleges to come out of their front doors and say to people that actually we're a part of this community, we're a part and parcel of this community, and actually we're one of the greatest parts that can actually make a difference. Because actually, if we get the opportunities right for our young people, and if we engage our employers, people like Jason, Majid, and these people, if we engage them well enough and get them hooked in, working with our colleges, then our young people have the most important thing at the end of their time there, which is employability. Because that's why we go through education, to be employed. With regards to the value of vocational educations, in summary, having taught thousands probably over the years, and managed faculty like Dawn of many young people going through vocational qualifications. For me, irrespective of the fact that there was a difference around academic qualifications and vocational qualifications, and Rehana has raised some really valid points. But to be condemned at the age of 16 because you didn't revise and you weren't able to manage social societal pressures well enough and you didn't get the cut of GCSEs. If I want to do my history GCSE now because I'm really passionate about history now. I hated history in school. It was the wrong time for me to do it. I want to do an RE GCSE again and an A level again because it's the right time for me. I'm really interested in it, but it was the wrong time then. And what I've seen vocational qualifications do is give kids a second lease of life and an opportunity for young people and adults further on in life to go on and make something of their life, learn a new skill, learn a trade, and make themselves more employable than you could if you just relied on that academic qualification and that structural system where you either make it at 16 or you're done for life. That's my wrap up of, I'm sorry, I said I'll be impartial. I'm not. We need colleges and we must make vocational qualifications count.
Believe it or not, I'd factored in you saying all of that. Might have just have had a little clue over the last 3 years that you might want to do that. Thank you, Sufian. Wonderfully chaired. However, you didn't get the last word in because just while the panel are just going to spend a couple of seconds just thinking and gathering their thoughts in terms of what they want somebody to take away. And I'm going to be strict with this. It's going to have to be almost one-liners. And I'm going to take it in the order that it appears on my list here. So it's not in alphabetical order. I think it's in terms of who was the last joined. So Dawn, I'm going to start off with you. What gem do you want to pass on?
Really, I suppose it's taking on board this concept of role models and advocates. And you and I have discussed allies and advocates in the past. And I think actually that goes some way to answering the question that Safia's asked, and that's what can colleges, people do to support BAME students within the college network. And it's about having those allies and advocates. You know, I mean, I'm working with, or I'm in contact with people at the Association for BME Engineers, and I'm watching quite avidly what's going to happen with the Hamilton Review when that comes out, so that we can support young engineering apprentices going through that program. So it's really advocates, allies, you know, role models, take those away, use them where we can.
Thank you, Dawn. And I think a powerful tool there. Dr. Majid.
Thank you. No, I mean, for me, really, it's just like reflecting what has been said today. It's more about encouraging the colleges really to, and the Fitt sector to work closely with the community, educate the families, and just be laudable and be proud of what the colleges do, and work with the commercial companies, getting more engagement with everybody. Because that, to me, as kind of a business owner, I had no idea what the apprenticeship could do until I started getting involved with my local wonderful Milton Keynes College, and I realized how great the student can be. And Jason and I, we are both now going to employ hopefully 2 to 3 apprentices as before September, because we love working with the student, and we're very proud to be involved with Milton Keynes College and the rest of the colleges in the country. So yeah,
thank you, Majid. Jason?
Majid just stole my thunder. I've got two parting thoughts. One is something that I learned from my dad, my late dad, who came over to this country with not a penny as a refugee. And he said to me, and he didn't have any formal education, and he said, training is about learning to do a job well. And just reflecting on the discussion today, around integration and around inclusivity, I think there's something quite magical about the power of college in building and developing people's skills to be great citizens, kind people, compassionate and integrated in society. And so I think that's servitude, that notion of serving the community, is around playing their role in particularly the essential and soft skills of young people. And just I've got to do another quick plug, which is around SMEs. And I think that the role of college to be visible to the SME community, more visible, because they are the biggest shop window for skills that a small business has. And every small business wants to grow. Every small business wants to, grow, and through skills and through their partnership with the college, they can grow. And that's what every business wants. So I put it to Milton Keynes College and all colleges that being visible to small businesses is essential, and anything they can do to do that would be, I think, a major part of their role.
Thank you, Jason. Oba.
Was very unprepared to unmute then. So for me, it's back to that first part and the role that colleges can play in their communities. And it's no surprise, it's really equipping those students with the skills to go out and be the difference they want to be in their communities. And the big takeaway for me is that sometimes we perceive a 16-year-old not getting involved as apathy, when really it's a lack of confidence. So we need to figure out what's at the root of it, explain to them that people care about their story, that they have the power over the future of their community, not us older people. And that if they go out and speak, and even if they make mistakes, they get so many chances. So giving them that confidence to be able to set their own platforms up and create their own agendas and make their own change is so key.
Thank you, Oba. Paul.
I was chatting to a 16-year-old girl today who finishes school this week and is delighted to be able to start at college in September because she hasn't fitted in at school. And for her, the potential of the wide open space of college and all that it offers for her and the promise that it has is super exciting. So I really appreciated Rehana's honesty about there are issues, and there are issues historically, and they're classist and privileged and systematic, and they need to be overcome. But colleges are a breeding ground, I think, for potential, and have a huge and vital ability to create a new and different and better community that we get to hand on to our children and their children as we go. So hopefully there's encouragement from today's session to do that.
Thank you, Paul. Natural segue into Rehana.
Ditto there to what Paul said in terms of all of that potential that we have in colleges, and that potential is there because of the young people that inhabit it. And all the hope and wonder and chaos that they bring with them. And I was having just to think as everybody was talking about what do I add here in closing that we perhaps haven't touched on before. So I do want to close a little bit to expand on this notion of diversity. Bringing in people who look different does not equal diversity. And that can sometimes be kind of an easier fix, isn't it? Bring in your local imam, bring in your local rabbi, bring in your local, whatever community leaders, and you've got a bit of diversity there. What the sector really needs, and I say that in a really broad way, is diversity of ideas, and that doesn't mean just bringing in people who look different, but also challenge you to look different. Allyship is great as long as we're all agreeing, but once that sort of person who comes in and makes you feel a little bit uncomfortable, you might not want to be their friend anymore. But it's holding on to that allyship and being that ally even when the conversation is making you uncomfortable, because it's that discomfort that takes us to a better place once we've kind of got through it. So just a little reflection, I think, on what it means to be a diverse place.
Thank you for that, Rehana. Shahida.
I just want to bring up something that I don't think we've spoken a lot today about, but it's linked to what Dawn was saying, and Keith McCarthy has mentioned something about storytelling. All of our stories on the panel today are so inspiring, that to encourage our colleagues and counterparts to become mentors, because the power of that, somebody seeing somebody look like, I know one of our students, she's getting mentored by a previous winner, and she says, the fact that she can speak to she wants to be somebody who talks normally and doesn't speak all posh when she becomes a psychologist, but just go out there and if you can, mentor somebody, because there might be somebody who doesn't want to speak to a college tutor, but they want to speak to another person, and to encourage them to do that.
Brilliant, thank you. Final word for the panel goes to Shalom.
Oh gosh, final one.
Yeah, absolutely.
This village of ours, this community of ours has to put the mirror up and look in. What message are we sending to our young people? What are we saying to them? It's all about value and choice. What are we telling them? We have to really think about the message we're sending to our young people as this village, because on this forum, there are no students. It's the community, the people. We're talking about ourselves, right? We're on this call, so we are the village. So as mothers, as fathers, as mentors, as members of the community, as employers, as educators, let our young people see themselves in us.
Perfect way to end. Thank you so much, Shalom. And that brings us to the end. I'm hoping today's session has answered a few questions for you, but I'm hoping it's posed a few questions that you'll be able to walk away, reflect. And I think from my perspective and this project's perspective is that you go away and have these conversations with people that haven't attended. Start those conversations. If that happens to be within the four walls of the college that you're in, great. If it happens to be with a local business, great. And I commented earlier on Jason's post or comment that he made. I said, our small businesses are part of our community, and they are quite often the pulse that keeps that lifeblood going and thriving through. And when they fail, we also see the communities struggle too. So there's lots of different ways that we can engage with each other and with others to make sure, and as Shalom said, what message are we sending to our students, to the next generation? And I read a quote a few weeks ago. We are now writing the book, which is our children, that's going to be read in the future, and we've got to decide what that story is going to be in that book. It's going to be our students now. It's like this young generation now that are going to tell the story of what happened today. And I think we've got to decide what that story needs to be. And we've got control over that. We have got an immense amount of power to create that story that we want to move forward with. We just need to take that moment to pause and think, what do we want to do next? And then do it. We're at that stage now. We need to start doing some of the things that we're talking about. So I thank you, panel, each and every one of you, for your time leading up to today and during the session today, and for being so honest. And I said last week as well to the panel last week, for being courageous in terms of your views and expressing your views on the things that we've wanted to discuss today and beyond that. So that's me. #FE Voices. And I thank you, Sufian, for your time today. Fantastic, honest conversations that you've led today. And I really, really appreciate that. So this is me wrapping up. See you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.